Welcome to Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. I am Nic Rohloff, and on today's show, we are going to break down two things. Some news on Braxton Berrios and his injury, as well as a roster move the Miami Dolphins made. But also, do the Dolphins still have a chance and a shot to make the playoffs? All right, let's get into today's show, but make sure you do share today's video beforehand. We are trying to spread the word here at Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. If you're a friend, family member, make sure you help us out and spread the word. Let's get 30 shares on today's show. Appreciate all you down in the comment section. All right, we're going to talk about this, and this came out yesterday afternoon, that an MRI today revealed that Dolphins wide receiver Braxton Berrios tore his ACL, which means he is out for the year, and the team will be placing him on IR. Now, we did get this news yesterday, and I want to talk about Tua and only him on yesterday's video, so I thought I could wait till today. And this is an interesting loss. I don't know if it's a big loss, though, because Braxton Berrios has only one role on this football team, and it's to be the punt returner and the lead kick returner for the Miami Dolphins. But if we're going to be honest, he hasn't even been that effective this season, and it's been a little bit of a disappointing year from Braxton, and he hasn't done anything in the passing game either. So let's look at the Braxton Berrios return stats according to Pro Football Focus. He's had 10 total returns this year, 3 in the kick return game, which is how he actually suffered his torn ACL on Sunday, then 7 punt returns. He's been much better as a punt returner. He got graded out way better by Pro Football Focus, and he's had more opportunities. Now, it's obviously easier to rack up yards on kick returns, so I don't want the yardage to be fooling you here. He has been more effective in the punt return game, and I think 14.7 yards per return for Braxton Berrios when he actually does bring it back is a pretty solid number, and it's certainly more of a loss on the punt return game than it is in the kick return game. And the question remains is, since he's going on IR, who now fills that vacancy? Who is that guy who's going to take over the main returner role? Well, the Dolphins do have someone who has done it in the past on their practice squad in Dwayne D. Eskridge, the person who they signed after roster cutdown day because he got released by the Seattle Seahawks, got added to the Dolphins practice squad. He's been elevated for a couple of games earlier on in the season, and I think he can continue to get elevated for this team because he does have 18 career kick returns. He doesn't have any experience returning punts, but in kick return, he averages 25.3 yards per attempt. This is all prior to the new kickoff change rules that they had this year. So he's been effective. So he's one option that the Dolphins could have if they just want to elevate someone off the practice squad to have that role every single week. But there is another player that I have my eye on, and that's Malik Washington, the 6th-round rookie from Virginia, who I have been very high on coming into this year, but has not seen the role that I thought he might have had this season. Now, he did miss the first 3 games with an injury, and that played a factor into it, but he just simply hasn't been on the football field as much as I thought. He did have 2 catches this past week against the Colts, 2 catches for 11 yards, I believe. But I think he is one of the most dynamic players the Dolphins have with the ball in his hands. He has punt return and kick return experience when he was playing in college for Virginia and was one of the most dynamic returners in all of college football and the ACC. And I think my number one choice to fill the void of Braxton Berrios for the kick return game as well as the punt return game is Malik Washington. I think Tyreek Hill and Devon Achane could be in line for a little bit of a role in that game as well, but I think the main guy should be Malik Washington since he isn't getting a lot of snaps on the offensive side as a pass catcher. But pick a returner for me. Which one would you rather see be the main kick returner and punt returner for the Miami Dolphins moving forward? Type DE for Dwayne Eskridge, type MW for Malik Washington. Since Braxton Berrios was placed on injured reserve and out for the year, the Dolphins made a corresponding move, and that's filling that roster spot with Cam Smith. Obviously, Smith has been someone who has been on IR since the start of the season after he suffered an injury in the preseason. He got his practice window open 2 weeks ago with OBJ in Week 5, but was not officially added to the active roster. Remember, you get 21 days once you open that window to be put on the active roster. If you don't, well, then you're out for the year. Well, Cam Smith was activated today, which means he now joins a very loaded cornerback depth chart that now features 7 guys as of right now. Now, this could change, especially with players returning from injury whenever they do, in terms of Bradley Chubb, River Craycraft. I think a corner with would likely be on the outs, but you have a lot of roles here and a lot of players. Ramsey, Fuller, Kader Kohou is your nickel. Cam Smith now joins Siran Neal, Storm Duck, and Ethan Bonner as depth pieces in this depth chart. And that's kind of where I want to go with this. Like, I think Cam Smith, the second-round pick in 2023 from South Carolina, someone that we've all hoped that can finally get on track here for the Miami Dolphins. I don't know what his role is going to be, though, because he's mostly a boundary guy. Like, I don't think he's going to take over Kader Kohou's role in the nickel. And with Kendall Fuller and Jalen Ramsey being as effective as they have been this season, then I don't know where he's going to play unless an injury occurs to one of these two guys. Like, they have been so good, graded out well in the coverage game, only allowing a combined 194 yards and not allowing a touchdown as a duo. No interceptions, no takeaways, but I will take no takeaways if they're allowing no touchdowns. Like, these two has been elite. The Dolphins secondary has been elite in the passing game. They've been the best part about this defense, other than the third down rate of getting opponents off the football field in a really effective rate, number one in the National Football League. This secondary and the limited pass yardage that they have allowed is the other thing that you can really take away from this group, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. But we do have a new sponsor here at Dolphins Today, and I could not be more excited about it because it's my favorite sportsbook and casino, and that is DraftKings. The NBA season is getting started, and with the NFL season in full swing, there's no better way with DraftKings. The NBA is finally back. A new season means new ways to get into the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Who's draining threes from beyond the arc? Who's crashing the boards and grabbing rebounds? Get behind your favorite players and the prop bets you can make on DraftKings, the home of NBA player props. First time, new DraftKings customers bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Every point counts with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code HEATCHAT. That's code HEATCHAT for new customers. Get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gambling resources, see dkng.co/bball. And with DraftKings, you can already make some plays for this weekend. They're the king of player props in both the NBA and the NFL, but they don't have any player props right now, at least at the time of filming this, for the Dolphins game. They do have the spread, which I do like with two returning. I'll take the Dolphins -3. And on Thursday Night Football, Vikings, Rams, I'll take Justin Jefferson over 100-plus receiving yards, and I'll also take Aaron Jones under 15.5 rushing attempts. The code is HEATCHAT. They do sponsor us over there at the Heat Report too, but make sure you do download the app, create an account, and use code HEATCHAT to get that special offer from DraftKings, my favorite sportsbook and casino. I implore you guys to join them over there. Let's get back to the Dolphins secondary now, because it just simply has been elite. They allow 154.5 yards per game in the passing game. That's first in the National Football League by about 10.2 yards per game. Now, that might be an indictment, if you will, of the Dolphins' rush defense, which is about middle average in the NFL. It's in between 15 and 20 in terms of rushing yards allowed per game. They've actually been in a really efficient defense this year, which is why it's so frustrating, because if this offense was even just average, the Dolphins would be a team that's above 500 and in the postseason and really threatening. That's how good the defense has been, but you cannot complain about the Dolphins secondary, who has not allowed 1,000 passing yards through the first 6 games. They're the only team that hasn't allowed 1,000 yards through the air this year. And I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier before we talked about the special here at DraftKings, but I don't know if we're going to see Cam Smith find a role without an injury. Now, we'll see if he gets mixed in there, but man, Kendall Fuller and Jalen Ramsey have been so good that when they're fully healthy, it's hard for me to imagine them coming off the football field. And I don't think Cam Smith is going to play nickel instead of Kader Kohou. That's the one corner that you could argue to take off the football field for Miami. But I don't know if Smith is going to be able to just go and translate in the nickel. We'll have to see if they ultimately do that, or in what they decide to do with Cam Smith, because they used the top 55 pick on him just 2 drafts ago. Obviously see him as a player that can fit long-term on this roster, and we got to see some sort of excitement around him if we want to trust him going forward with this organization. All right, let's wrap up that conversation and move over to playoff chances for the Miami Dolphins, because Pro Football Network did give the Dolphins a 23% chance to make the 2025 NFL playoffs. It was originally 8%, but then they adjusted it based off Tua Tagovailoa returning to the team and their projected impact and productivity that he will bring to the table. It's going to be very fascinating to see if they can make a run. We're going to talk about the standings and the schedule coming up for Miami in just a second, but make sure you are subscribed to the channel, because we're not going anywhere. We're trying to get to 63,000 subscribers. We're about 719 away. Hit that sub button if you haven't already. I'm Nic Rohloff. We post daily content, go live on Tuesdays and live on game days as well. And if the Dolphins do make a postseason run, which we're going to talk about here, we're going to be with you every step of the way. 23% is not a lot, but you are telling me there's a chance. With the 2-4 record Miami currently holds, they're going to have to go on a run. And if you want me to give you any type of positivity right now, just go back 1 year. The Green Bay Packers, they made the playoffs, right? What did they do in their first 6-7 games? And a lot of the same things that Miami has done right now. And when you look at the standings, it's hard not to be optimistic about potentially making a run here, because it's all right there for the taking. You got your division leaders in Kansas City, Houston, Baltimore, and Buffalo, but then the wild card comes in with Pittsburgh, Indy, Denver. They're all right there. And I said this on our live show on Tuesday. If you beat the Colts and you were 3-3 right now, you would be the 7 seed. You would, and you would have a postseason spot with Tua Tagovailoa returning. Like, I don't know, man. This middle of the AFC is so bad. I think Denver stinks. Bo Nix is terrible. They're going to come back down to earth. I think the Colts are not good. And when you talk about the Chargers as well struggling, the only team that really concerns me in the middle of the AFC that we just looked over there, the Dolphins will have to contend with for a playoff spot, is the Cincinnati Bengals. And it'll be interesting to see if they can make a run. But the AFC is so bad. And over the next 5 games, this is where the run for Miami can really get going. They play the Cardinals at home this week against the they play the Cardinals at home with Tua returning. You should win that game. You're favorites. I'll take you in that one. In Buffalo in week 9, I'm going to probably guess they lose that game, just considering they can never beat the Bills, and I really think they're going to do it in Buffalo with how they've looked this year. But then these 3 games, Rams, Raiders, Patriots, you're in Los Angeles, but that's after the trade deadline. Cooper Kupp might be gone. Heck, Matthew Stafford might be gone. There was a rumor that popped up today that he could be in trade discussions. The Raiders are the 3rd worst team in football, and the only teams that might be ahead of them in terms of being terrible are the Panthers and the Patriots. You play 2 of the worst teams in football here. If you go 2-1 in this 3-game stretch, you will be 4-1 after these 5 games. And guess what? You now have a 6-5 record going into the final 6 games of the season. I know. It's hard to be positive about this team after the way they've been coached, the way they've been looking, and the dumb mistakes they make on a daily and weekly basis this year. But it's right there, man. They can make a run if Tua comes back and gets this offense to at least an average mark. It's hard to, but, there is a saying out of there. You got to believe. Sadly, I still believe. But do you believe? Will the Dolphins make the playoffs? Type N if you think they make it. Type W if you think they won't. I think 10-7 is the magic number. They got 11 games left. Can they go, 8-3? I think it's possible, folks. I do think this upcoming week will tell me a lot, though. Tua's return against Arizona. If they lose against the Cardinals, I'm going to be done. I'm going to be checking out of this team. They'll be 2-5. I don't think there's a chance they make the playoffs. But if they come back, win, look good, say they win this game against Arizona 28-17. And that's not my score prediction. Just say they win at 28-17. Offense scores 4 touchdowns. Defense holds Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. to under 20 points. It's going to be hard for me not to start hopping back on the wagon and really pushing for this team to make the playoffs. And if you want more updates, news, rumors, memes, highlights on the Miami Dolphins, make sure you're following me over on Twitter at Nic_Rohloff. I'm talking Fins every single day over there. So go give me a follow, and hopefully I see you over there.